Good morning, one and all, and you're very welcome. Another beautiful Monday morning in lockdown heaven. Delighted to be here with you all. Thanks for joining in and for tuning in. Thank you, Princess Shelley and Eamon, for that lovely introduction, and thank you, Katrina, for being our editor-in-chief. I want to introduce you to my very special guest this morning, David O'Donovan, a man I've known for some years, fellow Dub, Yahoo, living in the West, and I'm going to tell you about David in just a second, but if David, if you just cheers us with your mug, please.
Good morning. How's it going? Mug straight from New York.
I love it. I love it. Right. We could stay on all day, but we can't. I'm quite sure there are people in the audience who want to ask you some questions. And if somebody wants to ask a question, you might wave at the screen. I'll bring you in a second. Before I do that, David, what one thing would you say to your nearest and dearest? You get through COVID best by doing blah. What's that blah for you?
Tough at times, but to give yourself the permission to not have to do everything, you know? I obviously haven't fully figured it out. Who has fully figured it out? But the shift in time, the shift in, you know, you and I talked briefly about this. I think the way time is moving quickly and slowly at the same time is really bizarre. The loss of routine, the loss of, you know, there's a huge amount of. I'm a big believer as well in the kind of the energy of things and you know, there's a huge amount of obviously grief and fear and anxiety and loss in the air at the moment. And even for those of us who are really privileged enough to be able to stay home and be relatively okay, there's food in the fridge, there's a little bit of money there, there's time, there's, you know, to be able to make the most or take advantage of this time. I've been really grateful for that, but also kind of trying to balance that with a degree of guilt about how many people are suffering to the degree they are, and then trying to not let that guilt ruin the gratefulness for it. Do you know what I mean? That cycle. So I've been trying to work through that cycle and that contradiction to be kind to yourself and forgiving of yourself.
Good morning, folks. You are more than welcome to the Coffee at 11 show on this beautiful spring morning here in lockdown heaven. And I'd love you to meet my friend for many years and special guest on the show this morning, Grainne Adams. Grainne, please say hi and cheers us with your mug.
Good morning, everybody.
Happy days. Listen, we're going to go to Q&A from the floor. Before we do, one tip. What one tip would you give us all, your nearest and dearest? You're going to get through COVID best by doing blah. What's blah for you?
Okay, well, I feel this has served me in my life. And I've used it quite a bit. I used it before I came on this show. I use it, I've used it lots of times during this lockdown time, but I try to pay very close attention to the stories I'm telling myself in my head. Whenever I feel kind of anxious about something or worried about something, I try to work out what I'm telling myself about it and then question it, whether it's true or not. And most of the time it's not. It's just being fearful of something that could happen. And to me, that in whatever way works for each of one of us, keeping yourself as best you can and being kind to yourself, but keeping yourself in the present moment, I think, is the only way to get through your whole life, really. You know, if you have those tools. So I don't know if that makes sense, but that's what works for me, and I think it's helpful, you know.
Good morning, one and all, and you're very welcome to the cafe this morning on this beautiful lockdown day. I think it's Wednesday. It is Wednesday, and looking forward to another fascinating chat with somebody else worth meeting. And this morning's guest is a good friend of mine for many years. We've soldiered together somewhat. It's Sean Lally of Hotel Woodstock. And Sean, you're very welcome. You might just say a quick hello, Sean, and cheers us with your book.
Thank you very much, Colm. Delighted to be here. Thank you.
Sean, indeed, it's our pleasure. We have an international audience this morning, which is just wonderful. You're all very welcome. We've got Sweden has dialed in and Spain has dialed in. I see people from the East Coast lots of us in the Midwest, etc. So great to have you all here. All right, listen, Sean, Lally, it's been an absolute pleasure. We could go on all day, but they won't let us. So we're going to go to Q&A from the floor in just a second. Before we do that, I'm going to ask you to give us one tip. What one thing would you say to your nearest and dearest? You will get through COVID best and come out the far side best by doing blah. What's the blah for you?
I suppose I get very uneasy if I'm not kind of learning something new or doing something new or have a plan each day. I'm not one for kind of sitting around and putting your feet up. I do it every so often, obviously, but I would suggest to people just don't waste this time, because this is a once in a lifetime opportunity, probably once in a century opportunity, hopefully, and we won't be in this situation again. So use it to get rid of all the things that were on your to-do list that you never got around to doing. Use it to upskill, because there's a multitude of webinars out there and free courses put on from various different colleges and educational institutions and whatever. And, I think now is an ideal time to make use of that time, because, and use it for family as well. We're very lucky here to have Oisín home from Germany, to have Weeva, myself and Elaine, and we're all under the one roof. So, it's been great like that, and probably reconnecting in a way that you mightn't have normally, because you're so busy and people are just coming and going, and people, they have their own lives and off doing meeting their own friends. So we're cocooned together, and it's actually been great like that as well, even though it's a kind of a strange experience. But, it has been very enjoyable as well at the same time.
Ladies and gentlemen, you're very welcome, more than welcome, to another great morning on the Coffee at 11 show. It's a beautiful Thursday morning. Here's spring morning in lockdown heaven, and things are going to get exciting. Delighted to introduce you this morning to my very special guest, lady I've been on the sidelines of her career for the last number of years, and gotten to know her in recent times. Sinead O'Riordan, please say hi, Sinead.
Hello. Hi, everyone.
And do you have a coffee mug, Sinead, to show us your coffee mug?
Probably dirty and a bit of a lipstick stain, but there you go.
I love it. It's the real Sinead O'Riordan. Delighted. Before, we're going to go to Q&A in a couple of minutes from the floor. But before we go there, Sinead, one last thing I'm going to ask you, and that is a tip. What one tip would you give your nearest and dearest? You will get through COVID best, come out the far end in best shape by doing blah. What's the blah for you?
I was thinking about that earlier, and I read a great article the other day about how we're all on this ocean together, and we're all in our different boats. My tip would be to just try and navigate your boat as best you can. Not everybody's in the same situation. Some are cruising along, sipping their margaritas, enjoying the downtime, taking on new projects. I'm fortunate enough in that my situation and environment allows me to do that. Other people, they're hitting tidal waves and their boats are being knocked over and they're scrambling to safety. So my tip really is just to not compare yourself to others, and maybe you draw inspiration from certain people, but just keep going the way you're going. We'll eventually all come out the end of it, and just keep steering your boat as best you can, and eventually you'll come to land, so.
You are more than welcome to the Coffee at 11 show on this beautiful Friday morning in lockdown heaven. And I want to introduce you to my special guest this morning, John Webb O'Rourke. John, please say hi and cheers us with your coffee mug.
Good morning, everybody. Delighted to contribute and to make myself available to this and to speak with my very good friend, Colm O'Brien, and you all.
And John, indeed, the pleasure is all ours. And that's exactly it. It's about choice. It's about choice. When I was delighted, by the way, you went on to qualify what you meant by I've decided I'm checking out. I was thinking, where's this going?
Oh, yeah. No, sorry. Yeah. No.
Okay. John, before we go to Q&A from the floor, And whoever's got a question might stick your hand up and we'll bring you in. One tip, John, what would you say to your nearest and dearest? You get through COVID best, come out the far side best, in best shape by doing blah. What's blah for you, John?
Be as, and I know if my family are listening, they'll probably criticize me and say, look in the mirror. Be as generous with your time and giving it to others. Comes back to that contribution element again. I think so. I hope that makes sense. But yeah, I think be as generous as you can with your time.
Yeah, but I would suggest, John, that you already are. I was interested to hear you say that maybe the family will be asking me to look in the mirror, but I think you perhaps do that in spades. Do you not give of your time all the time?
I do, sorry. What I meant was that they'll tell me that I'm doing it and maybe should be doing it less. That's really what I meant. It was the converse of the way maybe that I said it, you know.
All right. Point well made.